Hi, in this video we'll cover how to configure Supervisor Assist to interop with an Avaya environment using multiple registration as the means by which to silently listen in on the audio between the agent and the customer. The Avaya platform has two different ways for a supervisor to listen in on an agent's call. The first uses a feature called Service Observe, and the second uses a feature called Multiple Registration. Configuring SA with Service Observe is covered in another video. This video will show how to configure SA to use multiple registration in order to allow an observer of the call to listen in on the conversation at a particular device. As we've already been through the installation process in another video, we'll focus on the configuration that's needed to establish a telephony link between Supervisor Assist and the AES. One thing to note here is the required APIs are only available from 6.1 onwards. Here's a summary of what we'll cover in this video. We'll create a telephony link between SA and the AES and verify it works using the test tool within SA's administration portal. The Avaya environment has already been configured with the items listed here, so we'll review those later in the video. As we've seen in a previous video, Supervisor Assist comes with a pre-configured administrator user account. In order to set up the telephony link, we need to first log in as an admin and click on the Administer link. This page allows us to create our new telephony link, which allows SA to set up a new CTI connection to the AES. When choosing the telephony link provider, we get the option to select either Service Observe or Multiple Registration. Let's choose Multiple Registration and then give our link a name. Now we need to specify the credentials required to allow SA to connect to the AES. These need to have already been created on the AES. We'll look at the config there in just a few moments. SA invokes the DMCC service in order to cause the multiple registration media forking function to be invoked on the device. So we need to enter the name of the switch as AES knows it to be and the DMCC port we're going to connect to on the AES. The next step is to tell SA how it should authenticate with the agent device for monitoring. The first option here is only applicable when the agent devices can be monitored without needing any password. And typically this will only be true if the device's core has both can observe and can be observed set to true. The second option, as it says, will cause SA to use the agent device extension as the password. And then the third tells SA to use the value we specify as the password for all devices we want to monitor. The last step is to define the SA server's cluster address. This will have been defined during the initial configuration steps of Supervisor Assist. In our case, it's the IP address of the server, but it could be a fully qualified domain name. We then need to save our configuration, which will automatically start the telephony link. There we are. The link is now up and running. The test button on the right allows us to easily check everything is working as expected. So now we need an agent device logged in so we can start to monitor it. As you can see, we now get notified of our device's call state. Let's put a call into it. There we go. Now we can start to listen in on the call going on at that agent device. As you can see, I'm using Chrome, which shows me a little red dot at the top of my browser tab to tell me that I've got audio coming in. Now that we've seen the configuration required within SA, and we've also tested it, let's briefly look at the configuration on the Avaya side. The Supervisor Assist Avaya integration guide has much more detail, but here's a quick overview of what's needed. Let's start by looking at the DMCC port configuration. The thing to note here is you'll need to enable the unencrypted DMCC communication port setting from within the AES management console. Next is the creation of a CTI user that Supervisor Assist will use to talk to the AES. The majority of these fields don't really matter, however the CT user property must be set to yes. And then within the agent station configuration screens, in addition to the normal config that an administrator might apply, we need to make sure that data restriction is turned off. Without this, call observation just won't be possible. One thing to note here is that when we were looking at the SA config earlier, we had set a custom password rather than choosing any of the other options we were presented. That password has already been configured here against all our agent stations. Let's move on and look at the last item in our list, the class of restriction settings. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. If the station passwords have been configured, either to be all the same or so that each password is identical to the extension number, the core must allow the station to be service observed. If, however, no passwords have been set, the core must allow the station to be observed and to do the observing. Again, the Avaya integration guide has a lot more detail than is covered in this video. Now that we've seen how to configure an Avaya telephony link using multiple registration, take a look at some of our other SA videos, such as the ones that demonstrate the actual agent and supervisor applications. Thank you.